Okay, so let's talk a little bit about even and odd trigonometric functions. So remember, when you have a function and you evaluate it at the opposite of that, and it doesn't change, then it's an even function. But if you evaluate it and it comes out to be the opposite of f of x, then it's an odd function. Okay, now let's draw a little coordinate system here. You can draw a unit circle if you want, but think about an angle coming up here, right? And you know that has the coordinates x comma y, right? And you know that it's sine and cosine. Okay, so it's cosine. I guess I should have an angle here. T, sine t. Okay, when you come down here, if you were to go in the negative direction, so go this way, negative t, so you're reflecting it about the x-axis, your point's going to be x comma negative y, right? Okay, so cosine is going to be the same. See, the cosine for t, or the cosine of negative t, so the cosine of t is going to equal the cosine, I'm going to put parentheses in, the cosine of negative t. That means it's an even function. This is even. But the sine of t is equal to the opposite of the sine of t. See, it was y, and now it's negative y. And so that means this is an odd function. Okay, so what happens here is cosine and its reciprocal, secant, these are even functions. So it means cosine t equals cosine negative t. Cosine t equals cosine negative t. And secant t equals secant negative t. But the sine is an odd function, and it turns out that all the other functions are odd. So sine t equals the opposite of sine negative t. That's what I got written wrong. Sine negative t equals the opposite of sine t. And its reciprocal, cosecant of negative t, is equal to the opposite of cosecant t. And then tangent of negative t equals the opposite of tangent t. And cotangent of negative t equals the opposite of cotangent t. So in other words, if you have a negative angle that you're trying to find a trig function for, depending on if it's even or if it's odd, you can change it so that it's in terms of the sine or the trig function of a positive angle. Okay? You can draw that out with all the functions. The book doesn't do that. I wasn't going to either. But this has to do with even and odd properties of the trig functions. And there's a chart in the book. I don't know if they have theirs written as nicely, maybe. Or they just have it written a little bit differently. Eventually, when we get to the identities, we're going to write it this way. So, all right. So here's example 4. If the secant of angle T is 2, what is the secant of negative T? So secant right here. So the secant of an angle is equal to the secant of the opposite of that angle. So what we're saying is the secant of T, that's 2. So the secant of the opposite of t is also equal to 2. Okay? They're equal to each other. So I don't know how they want to write it. Secant of the opposite of t equals 2. That's how I would write it. Okay? So secant of t, secant of negative t, they're equal to each other.